BBC News, I'm John Shea. Ukrainian fighters besieged by Russian forces inside Mariupol's Azovstal industrial complex say 20 civilians have been able to leave the site. A commander of the Azov battalion said his forces were rescuing people from underneath rubble using ropes. He said he hoped the process would continue and that they would be able to evacuate all the civilians. Will Leonardo reports.
The deputy commander of Ukraine's Azov battalion, Sviatoslav Palamar, said in a Telegram post that the group able to leave the Azovstal plant included women and children. He said they'd been transferred to a suitable place and he hoped they'd eventually be taken to Ukrainian-controlled Zaporizhzhia. Earlier, Russian state media reported that 25 people had been evacuated. It's thought that hundreds of civilians remain at the plant, the last holdout by Ukrainian forces in the bombed-out city of Mariupol. Moscow has been loath to let people leave, calling for a full surrender, but there's been increasing pressure on the Russian authorities, led by the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres, who's repeatedly stressed the need for an escape route.
The governor of the Ukrainian city of Odessa says a Russian missile has hit its airport, destroying a runway. The Ukrainian MP, Oleksiy Goncharenko, says the Russians want to keep up pressure on Odessa and that capturing it would open a corridor to the Russian-occupied enclave of Transnistria.
Certainly we are concerned about this. Certainly we understand that they want to open the second front against Ukrainian forces which are defending our southern part of the country from Transnistria. We are very carefully watching the situation there and we are ready to fight any attacks from this region.
Reports from the Kherson region in southern Ukraine say mobile phone signals and mobile internet access have disappeared. Russian forces have occupied the city of Kherson since early March, and Ukraine's armed forces say Moscow is preparing a renewed offensive to capture all of the territory in the Kherson region. The family of the jailed Rwandan opposition activist who inspired the film Hotel Rwanda say they've filed a $400 million lawsuit in the United States over his alleged abduction and torture. Paul Rusesabagina is serving a 25-year prison term on terrorism charges after a trial which his supporters say was a sham. The lawsuit names the government of Rwanda, President Paul Kagame and other figures. Richard Hamilton reports.
The Rusesabagina family say the government of Rwanda and high-ranking officials conspired to execute an elaborate plot to lure Paul Rusesabagina from his home in Texas to Rwanda, where he would be tortured and illegally detained for the rest of his life. He was convicted last September of involvement in a rebel group that was blamed for deadly gun, grenade and arson attacks in Rwanda in 2018 and 2019.
World News from the BBC. The head of Guinea's military government, Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya, has said he's chosen a 39-month transition period before returning the country to civilian rule. Mr Doumbouya said the National Transition Council would now put the proposal to Parliament. The announcement came after the regional bloc ECOWAS, which has been calling for a return to civilian rule, set last Monday as a deadline for putting forward an acceptable timeline for transition. Iraqi security forces say they've seized more than 6 million pills of the amphetamine-type banned stimulant Captagon. Iraq's National Security Agency said it had broken up a drug trafficking ring when it discovered the pills at a warehouse in the southwest of Baghdad. The agency said it had arrested 3 Iraqis and 4 suspects from other Arab countries in connection with the trafficking network. The Italian football agent Mino Raiola, whose negotiating skills contributed to a huge increase in players' salaries, has died at the age of 54. The cause of his death has not been confirmed. Here's Guy Pitt.
Forthright, outspoken, and with a spectacular eye for a deal, Mino Raiola was one of the highest profile and highest paid football agents in the world. Mino Raiola had a rags-to-riches journey. Born in Italy, he was brought up in the Netherlands, where his parents first ran a sandwich shop and then a pizzeria. But by 25, he'd made his first deal, helping to bring the Dutch forward Brian Roy to the Italian club Foggia. Later deals were huge, for which he faced criticism, but he denied he'd ever been greedy and said his players always stuck with him.
Police in the Canadian province of Quebec have asked residents in the town of Madeleine-Centre to stay indoors after a report that a polar bear was spotted in the area. A local resident said nobody in the town had ever seen a polar bear so far south. And that's the latest BBC World News.